QuickBooks Pro Plus Desktop 2022 Report Header and Footer Formatting. Get ready, because we bookkeeping pros are moving up the hilltop with QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2022. Here we are in our free QuickBooks sample file, sample rock castle construction, going through the setup process with the view dropdown, the open windows list on the left-hand side, company dropdown, home page in the middle, maximizing the home page, right-hand side, focusing in once again on the balance sheet report, which we can open a few different ways with the reports drop down, go into the reports center, possibly in the memorized reports or in the favorite reports, but I'm going to go down here to the company and financial and go on down to the balance sheet standard once again. Going to be increasing the font size to 14, font to 14, going to the customized report up top. Fonts and numbers, we're going to be changing the font change, so change the good old font here to number 14, font to 14, okay, and then yes please, and then okay. So there we have it. Going to close the item on the left hand side. We've been going over the common kind of features for formatting that we could have on the reports, including the balance sheet, but also often applicable to then other reports as well. We want to make sure that we're grouping the two kinds of reports that might have more similar formattings to those which have a single date balance sheet type of reports versus those that need a date range, more like an income statement report. This time we're going to go into the customized reports up top, looking at the headers and footer options, the headers and footers being like this item and this item on the right hand side. Let's look at the header and footer option here. So let's go from top to bottom, going over the options on the header and footer. So first, we've got the company name. The company name right here, Rock Castle Construction, would be taken from, in essence, the data that had been entered into the system when creating the QuickBooks file. Probably the name you're going to be going by, but possibly you have some other DBA or doing business as name or something like that, and you wanted to change this, for example. You could just call it, Castle Construction, possibly. Let's change it to that and say we're going to say okay, just calling it Castle Construction, and we can update that. When you make changes like these, by the way, if you don't want to do that every time, you could memorize the report after changes have been made, and then you could go back in and update those memorized reports, and those will already be done for you. See what else we got. We got customized reports up top. We're going to go to the header and the footer. So we've got the report title. So we've got the balance sheet here. Note that's generally going to be the name that we're going to want if it's a standard balance sheet. But if we change something on the balance sheet, for example, if I went to the display tab and said I'd like to see this on a quarter by quarter basis, so we might say quarter by quarter balance sheet and okay. So now we've got that breaking out by quarter. So now it's kind of like a comparative balance sheet or a quarter by quarter balance sheet. You might then want to change the name, customizing the reports, go into the header and footer. So we could put balance by balance sheet per QT, let's say per QT, just for example purposes. And that will then give us then that item, just changing that item there. And we could save and customize that report if we so choose, or memorize it, I should say, so that we can then have that change taking place automatically. Let's go then to the customized reports once again. Go into that header and the footer. We've got the subtitle on the report. This is the date that's being given down here. That's the standard date. But here too, if we adjust the dates on the report, having some kind of comparative report, for example, or a quarter by quarter report, then we might want to change the date range. And we could just remove the date range, possibly. We might want to say, maybe I just don't want that item there, for example. Then this date will be gone, and we could just use the dates at the headers of the reports. Let's check that out. Check it out. So now that date is gone, and we just have these items there. So we could use that. Let's go to the customized reports again. Say, what else do we have in our headers and our footers? We've got the date prepared, time prepared, report basis. That's going to be stamped on the left-hand side. That's there by default. You could change the date formatting. Possibly you want the date to look some other format such as this if you think it looks more professional. Or you might say, I just want to remove the date. Maybe I don't want the timestamp. Maybe I don't want the report basis because it's always on the accrual basis. Don't need that stuff. So that's going to remove, by the way, the right-hand side, you can see the little icon here. These 3 items, time, date, and basis. That's what's going to be removed. If I then click on that, removes them. So there we have it. Go back to the customized reports, headers and footers. Then we've got the print header on pages after the first page. So in other words, I have the header here up top. What if this thing goes to 2 pages long? Do I still have the header on the second page or not? By default, it does. Let's check that out. We're going to say, okay, what am I talking about? What are you talking about? Let's go to the print drop down and let's take a look at the reporting of it. That'll give us our preview right here on the preview. Let's take a look at what the preview looks like. So here's page 1. And then if we go down then to page 2, see if I scroll back out, it still has the header up top. So page 1 has the header, page 2 has the header. Also note we have the page number on the bottom right hand, which will come into play later. So I'm going to close that out and say, okay, well, what if I close this out and I don't want that to be on the second page? I'm going to go to Customize Report, say Headers and Footers, and I'm going to say I just want the header on the first page, not the second page. We'll unclick the default setting here, say OK, and then let's do our preview again. Print drop down. We're going to go to the report, print in the report. We're going to take a look at the preview. So there we have it. Second page, no longer the header. The header's gone. That's what we wanted to happen, and it did happen because we've made it happen. So we're going to then close that out, and then we'll close this out again. Back to the customized report area once again. Header and footer options. Down below, we got the show the footer option. So the page number, you could show in different formats, and you can kind of customize this so it looks a little bit different than other people might show the page number, and or you might say, I don't need the page number down there. Let's remove the page number, which we saw previously. And you could have an extra footer. You might put your name here on the extra footer saying that's my report. I made that report, maybe, or something in the footer on down below. Print footer on the first page. So you could either not print the footer on the first page, possibly using that as kind of like the header page, for example, and then put the footer on the second. Let's keep it here for now, and let's look at it again. And we'll go to the print report, and let's check it out with the preview and see what it looks like this time. So now on the footer down below, we've got our name down here. And we don't have the number anymore because we removed the number. It's on both the first and second page. What if I only want it on the second page? We could do that. I'm going to close this out and say, let's go to the customized reports and try that out. Headers and footers. Let's say we don't want it print footer on the first page. No, just second page. That's what we want. So I'm going to say OK. And then we're going to go to customize reports. And we're going to go, let's go to the, what am I, customized reports? No, I'm going to the print drop down, report center, or print reports, and then preview the reports. So now it's not on the first page, but on the second page, we have the name, we have that footer. Okay, closing that out, closing this out. We're going to go to customize reports again. We'll go to then the headers and the footers. Now this option is going to basically give like the format up top. So it's just the alignment option. So by default, it's aligned this way. So standard, you could say I want to go left alignment. That would take the header or the options up here, the company, the title, and the subtitle that we removed up top. And it would say that those are actually on the right now. And then the company name would be on the left. So if I was to say, okay, let's check that out. We have this on the left, and the other items that we removed would then be on the right. Customizing header and the footer. Let's bring these back so we could see those. If we put it on the right, then it's going to look like that. Let's say OK. We can see the little preview. I'm going to say OK. So there we have it on the right now, and this timestamp on the left. Kind of strange. I wouldn't use that normally, but you have that option if you want. And then we have the centered option. So then we have the centered option, which looks similar in essence to the default. Going back to the customize header and footer, you could reverting back. That reverted everything back, you'll see, then to what it was resulting first off. So we got the full name up top, the timestamp remained, the page at the bottom. So we changed it all back to what it was. So if we said, man, that really messed that up, I think the default settings were the best. We can revert back to the default setting, go back to the print layout, report to the print the report, and then preview it. And we're back to where we started. Here's the default settings. Now you also might be saying, hey, look, I have this and it looks like I've got all March going down and then June. I'd like to see these basically side by side instead of one and then the other. So for that, you got a few different options. Those are basically printing options. If I close this back out and we think about just in essence, the printing options when you have this wide type of report, and we'll see this many different times when we got this wide report. How can we adjust that? We can then go, okay, well, what if I go to the print options up top and I go to the report and I'd like to fit it on, one page wide. So we have then the breaks. I would say page break after each major grouping. I want to fit it to down here, fit to 1 pages wide. So we're going to do that. That's going to change or squish it together. So it kind of adjusts the fonts to do that. But that's one way we can kind of force that to work. So then I can say, okay, and then let's take a look at the preview. So I printed it last time. Now we're looking at the preview. So that's good. It forces it into 1 page, which is nice, but it also makes the font whatever the font needs to be in order to do that. So if I had multiple reports, I could have different kind of font sizes if I was to do that. If I was close to it being on 1 page, then the other thing we could do is we could try to adjust the column size to try to fit it on 1 page as well, so that we can kind of keep the font as the standard size and then still put it on 1 page. And then the other option you could do is to try to change it, go into the print drop-down reports, from having it print portfolio to landscape. This is something you might want to try before you have the fit to 1 page, right? Not fit to 1 page, make it landscape. And then we can say I printed again. I should say preview it. And so there we have it. So it still doesn't fit on 1 page. We're on landscape. So we'd still have to do something else, which would either be formatting it separately, shortening the font. I could, of course, bring the font back down from 14, back down to what it was before. And that's more likely to fit there. If we can't fit it on 1 page and we want more formatting options, then we can export it, say, to Excel. And then we have more formatting options there that we could possibly do for printing types of options. So just from a printing standpoint, then, in other words, if you get a wide report, you normally would like to have it on 1 page wide. I don't care if it's multiple pages down. And you could then change it to landscape to help you out with that. Then you could force it to fit by forcing it to fit 1 page wide. But that'll kind of change the font sizes. You can adjust then the font sizes manually if you so choose, or the size of the headings as well, or the size of the columns. And if none of that works and you want more formatting options, you can export it to Excel and then use the printing and formatting options there possibly to make a more suitable adjustment for it. When we have the standard balance sheet, that's not going to be an issue typically because we don't have this really wide report. So it's only when we have these wide reports that we have that issue. We don't want to have to paste pages together. We'll see that many times when we go through the practice problems in future presentations.